Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với buổi hội thảo trực tuyến ngày hôm nay, và buổi hội thảo của chúng ta sẽ có topic là nói đúng trọng tâm, đạt điểm xứng tầm. Và ngày hôm nay mình là My, rất là vui khi được đồng hành cùng với các bạn trong buổi hội thảo. Hôm nay chúng ta sẽ có thời gian để chia sẻ cùng với thầy Daniel. Thầy cũng đã có hơn 15 năm kinh nghiệm trong việc giảng dạy tại Canada và Việt Nam. Hy vọng rằng thầy sẽ đem lại những cái kiến thức mà giúp ích cho các bạn cho các kỳ thi sắp tới. Và trước khi bắt đầu vào buổi hội thảo thì chắc là chúng ta sẽ hãy cùng tương tác với nhau vào khung chat box ha. Không biết là các bạn đang đến từ tỉnh thành nào? Các bạn có thể comment vào khung chat box cho mình được không? Chương trình của chúng ta hôm nay thì sẽ được livestream trực tiếp trên fanpage của IDP và cũng sẽ được record lại tại kênh YouTube của IDP luôn. Và mình cũng đang gặp gỡ rất là nhiều các bạn thí sinh trong trang Dung của IELTS IDP ha. Các bạn vui lòng comment cho chúng ta được biết là các bạn đến từ tỉnh thành nào. Để mình cũng được biết là các bạn đang nghe rõ lời mình nói ha. Cảm ơn các bạn. Các bạn đang tương tác rất là nhiều trong khung chat box. Có bạn đến từ thành phố Hồ Chí Minh. Có bạn đến từ Hải Phòng. Chào bạn Nguyệt Anh đến từ Bắc Ninh này. Bạn Ngọc Trần đến từ Lâm Đồng. Có bạn Huyền đến từ Hà Nội ha. Bạn Hana đến từ Hồ Chí Minh. Ừ. Ừ. Xin được chào mừng tất cả các bạn đến từ khắp mọi miền thành phố ở Việt Nam của chúng ta. Vậy là chắc là các bạn cũng đã nghe rõ lời mình nói rồi. Vậy thì mình sẽ bắt đầu. Trước khi mà bắt đầu vào buổi hội thảo thì mình cũng sẽ giới thiệu sơ qua về IELTS IDP và cũng như là các chương trình ưu đãi của chúng ta trong thời gian sắp tới. Đầu tiên về IDP Việt Nam thì hiện tại là IDP Việt Nam đã có gần khoảng 30 năm kinh nghiệm trong lĩnh vực giáo dục quốc tế và khảo thí IELTS rồi các bạn. Và với nỗ lực của IDP thì hiện tại chúng tôi đang có khoảng 22 văn phòng toàn quốc và có 6 văn phòng trực tuyến. Vì vậy nên là các bạn sẽ rất là thuận lợi khi mà tìm tới IDP. Và trong trường hợp mà các bạn thí sinh không có thể có thời gian để tới văn phòng được thì chúng ta cũng có thể liên hệ với IDP qua các trang mạng xã hội và các kênh liên hệ như là hotline 1900 6955 này, hoặc là các bạn có thể tìm kiếm các thông tin chính thống của IDP qua trang web là idp.com/Việt Nam. Và chúng mình cũng sẽ có kênh fanpage Facebook là IELTS by IDP và có YouTube cũng như Instagram, TikTok luôn các bạn ha. Các bạn có thể tìm kiếm trên rất là nhiều nền tảng xã hội và liên hệ với IDP. Về chứng chỉ IELTS thì chắc là cũng không xa lạ với các bạn nữa. Chứng chỉ IELTS thì là một chứng chỉ quốc tế có thể kiểm tra được năng lực ngôn ngữ là tiếng Anh của các bạn toàn diện trong 4 kỹ năng là nghe, nói, đọc và viết. Và hiện tại thì đã có hơn 12.500 tổ chức trên toàn thế giới đã chấp nhận kết quả thi IELTS. Và chính phủ Úc này, Canada và New Zealand cũng như là nước Anh đã sử dụng IELTS cho mục đích định cư rồi. Và các nhà tuyển dụng, các trường đại học và các tổ chức trên toàn thế giới, bao gồm cả Mỹ, cũng đã chấp nhận kết quả thi IELTS. Và điều này cho thấy rằng là với một tấm bằng IELTS thì sẽ mở ra cho các bạn rất là nhiều cơ hội về du học, về định cư cũng như là việc làm trong tương lai ha. Và theo thống kê thì có hàng triệu thí sinh thi IELTS hàng năm, và kỳ thi IELTS được tổ chức tại hơn 150 quốc gia. Riêng tại Mỹ thì đã có hơn 3.600 tổ chức và chương trình đã chấp nhận kết quả thi IELTS. Và IDP toàn cầu thì đã có hơn 2.000 địa điểm trên khắp thế giới. Vậy thì mục đích các bạn thí sinh tham dự kỳ thi IELTS là bao gồm những mục đích gì? Đầu tiên thì chắc chắn sẽ là dành cho các bạn thí sinh đi du học và các bạn muốn săn học bổng thì mình sẽ thi kỳ thi IELTS ha. Hoặc là các anh chị các bạn mà đi làm hoặc là đi định cư ở nước ngoài cũng bắt buộc là sẽ phải thi IELTS để có thể được chấp thuận những cái mục đích của mình. Và kỳ thi IELTS thì cũng sẽ là cơ hội để giúp cho các bạn kiểm tra được năng lực quốc tế, tiếng Anh quốc tế của bạn tới đâu ha. Và với các bạn học sinh cấp 3 này, các bạn có thể thi IELTS để có thể được miễn kỳ thi tiếng Anh ở trung học phổ thông, hoặc là apply vào rất là nhiều trường đại học ở Việt Nam khi các trường đại học cũng có chấp thuận kỳ thi IELTS để xét tuyển ha. Và khi mà các bạn là sinh viên và có IELTS thì cũng rất là lợi thế cho các bạn khi tham gia các chương trình trao đổi giao lưu văn hóa quốc tế. Và sau khi mà mình tốt nghiệp này thì các bạn apply vào các công ty đa quốc gia thì IELTS cũng sẽ là một lợi thế của các bạn. Và có thể là các bạn cũng đã biết là từ ngày 1 tháng 4 thì chúng ta sẽ chỉ có kỳ thi IELTS trên máy tính thôi. Và với kỳ thi IELTS trên máy tính thì sẽ đem lại rất là nhiều lợi ích cho các bạn. Cụ thể là về kết quả thi này, so với kỳ thi trên giấy thì các bạn sẽ cần phải đợi 13 ngày. Thì với kỳ thi trên máy chúng ta sẽ chỉ cần đợi tầm 1 đến 5 ngày thôi là chúng ta đã biết kết quả rồi. Kết quả sẽ trả rất là nhanh cho các bạn ha. Và lịch thi thì cũng rất là linh hoạt nữa. IDP, ở IDP thì chúng ta sẽ có lịch thi trải dài từ thứ hai cho đến chủ nhật luôn. Ngày nào cũng có ngày thi cả, và trung bình sẽ có tầm từ 2 đến 3 ca thi. Các bạn có thể chọn ca thi buổi sáng, buổi chiều hoặc là buổi tối đều được luôn. Và tiện lợi hơn nữa là 4 kỹ năng các bạn sẽ thi trong cùng một ngày để thuận lợi hơn cho việc đi lại của các bạn. Tức là các bạn sẽ đến địa điểm thi, mình thi xong 4 kỹ năng là mình sẽ đi về luôn ha. Mình sẽ không cần phải đợi thêm qua ngày hôm sau hoặc là thi trước với kỹ năng nói nữa. Và có một điều mà mình chắc chắn là các bạn rất là thích, đó là các bạn có thể cải thiện điểm số của mình khi mà thi kỳ thi IELTS trên máy tính. Các bạn sẽ được chọn một trong 4 kỹ năng mà mình chưa hài lòng với điểm số của mình và tham gia thi lại trong vòng 60 ngày kể từ ngày thi chính thức của mình ha. Thì 60 ngày mình nghĩ là cũng đã có thể đủ thời gian để các bạn tập trung và ôn luyện vào một kỹ năng và giúp mình cải thiện điểm số. Và mình cũng có lưu ý là với hơn 12.500 tổ chức chấp nhận kết quả thi IELTS chính thì sẽ có khoảng hơn 2.000 tổ chức đã chấp nhận kết quả thi IELTS One Skill Retake của các bạn ha. Và ở Việt Nam thì cũng đã có rất là nhiều trường đại học hàng đầu cũng đã chấp nhận kết quả thi One Skill Retake. Mình lấy ví dụ như là trường đại học Bách Khoa này, trường đại học Mở, trường đại học Luật này. Các bạn có thể tra cứu những cái tổ chức này ở trên website của IDP các bạn ha. Với IDP thì chúng mình sẽ rất là nỗ lực để đem lại những nhiều lựa chọn và sự đa dạng hơn cho các bạn thí sinh, bằng cách là chúng mình sẽ giúp các bạn có thể đăng ký mọi lúc mọi nơi. Có rất là nhiều cách để các bạn đăng ký. Các bạn có thể tới trực tiếp văn phòng IDP này, hoặc là inbox cho fanpage của IDP để hướng dẫn đăng ký online tại nhà, hoặc là các bạn có thể tới các đối tác mà IDP được ủy quyền trên khắp toàn quốc với mạng lưới là khoảng 600 đối tác, để các bạn đến và được hỗ trợ đăng ký thi. Và chúng mình sẽ hỗ trợ các bạn thật là nhiều nhất có thể để giúp các bạn đăng ký một cách dễ dàng và thoải mái hơn. Và ngoài ra thì chúng mình còn nỗ lực để có thêm rất là nhiều địa điểm thi, giúp các bạn các bạn có những địa điểm thi gần nhà của mình để mình khỏi phải đi xa ha. Và với nỗ lực của IDP thì chúng mình đã có mặt tại khoảng 20 tỉnh thành trên toàn quốc, với những cái địa điểm thi mà chúng mình đã nỗ lực để giúp các bạn không cần phải di chuyển nhiều ha. Và với IDP thì giám thị và giám khảo rất là uy tín và thân thiện, sẽ một phần nào đó giúp các bạn giảm căng thẳng trong quá trình thi. Và nếu mà cần hỗ trợ gì thì các bạn đừng ngại nhờ sự hỗ trợ của các bạn giám thị trong phòng thi của mình ha. Và đây cũng là cái phần mà mình nghĩ là rất là nhiều các bạn sẽ thích đây. Đây là một cái chương trình ưu đãi của IDP dành tặng cho các bạn nhân tháng mừng đại lễ ha. Với các bạn nào mà đang có nhu cầu đăng ký thi tại IDP thì chúng ta hãy liên hệ với IDP đăng ký các ngày thi trước tháng 7 từ giờ đến tháng 6 ha. Với các kỳ thi trên máy tính thì các bạn sẽ được ưu đãi là một cái phiếu voucher trị giá mua sắm trị giá là 300.000 đồng cùng với khóa học ôn luyện thi của Đại học Macquarie trị giá là 1,4 triệu. Phần này thì các bạn nếu mà có nhu cầu các bạn hãy liên hệ với IDP, các văn phòng ở IDP này, hoặc là mình PM trực tiếp cho fanpage của IDP thì chúng mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn để đăng ký và nhận ưu đãi này. Ngoài ra thì chúng mình cũng hiểu được rằng là các bạn sẽ rất là muốn tìm hiểu về kỳ thi IELTS trên máy tính, thì chúng mình đang có một cái buổi hỗ trợ học thuật miễn phí dành cho các bạn. Đó là buổi thi thử 2 kỹ năng nghe và đọc tại 3 văn phòng Đà Nẵng, Hà Nội này và thành phố Hồ Chí Minh vào thứ Tư hàng tuần ha. Mình sẽ có một buổi kéo dài từ khoảng 4:30 cho đến 7 giờ tối, và các bạn sẽ được thi thử 2 kỹ năng trực tiếp tại phòng máy của IDP luôn. Các bạn cũng sẽ được trả kết quả trực tiếp này, và các bạn sẽ được trải nghiệm phòng máy thi thật và máy tính thi thật của IDP. Chúng mình cũng sẽ hướng dẫn cho các bạn các thao tác làm bài cũng như là các dạng bài tập để các bạn có thể quen hơn với kỳ thi IELTS trên máy. Và đồng thời khi các bạn tham dự buổi thi thử thì các bạn cũng sẽ có cơ hội là nếu các bạn đăng ký thi thật vào ngày hôm đó, mình cũng sẽ có nhận được à, được cái ưu đãi là giảm 500.000 trực tiếp vào lệ phí thi ha. Do đó là chúng mình rất là chào đón các bạn cho các buổi thi thử tại văn phòng IDP. Và nếu mà các bạn đăng ký thi lại 1 kỹ năng thì mình cũng sẽ có một cái chương trình voucher, giảm voucher 300.000 nữa. Với các bạn nào có nhu cầu thì các bạn nhanh tay PM cho đội ngũ của IDP qua fanpage này, hoặc là qua các kênh hotline ha. Chúng mình sẽ hỗ trợ để giúp các bạn có những cái phần ưu đãi này. Rồi, và cũng không để các bạn đợi lâu nữa, chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu bước vào buổi hội thảo của chúng ta ngày hôm nay. Mình sẽ giới thiệu sơ qua về khách mời của mình. Khách mời của chúng ta ngày hôm nay là thầy Daniel, và thầy đã có hơn 15 năm kinh nghiệm trong việc giảng dạy tại Canada và Việt Nam. Thầy cũng là Master of Education ha, và với những cái kinh nghiệm dày dặn của thầy thì mình chắc chắn rằng hôm nay các bạn sẽ nhận được rất là nhiều kiến thức bổ ích. Okay, so hi Daniel, are you ready for the workshop today?
Sure, yeah. Ready to go. My turn then? Yes, all right. Then let's get this show on the road. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm just blown away by all of the different locations I saw in the Zoom chat. Dong Nai, Haiphong, Hanoi, and Saigon. I do hope that you're able to get something useful out of this. So, without any further ado, let's get rolling. So, IELTS Speaking 6.0 to 7.5. That is the goal for today. About how can we be bringing our speaking scores up from that 6 to the 7.5. All right, so some speaking issues. You can type this in the Zoom chat, please. What are some common speaking problems for Vietnamese on the speaking test? What are some issues? And I'll give a few seconds to see if people are typing away, getting some thoughts down into the chat. I mean, there are some pretty famous ones, although I've been here, pronunciation, word choice, ideas, accents, the lack of environment, pronunciation, sure, ideas for for Vietnamese or for the Vietnamese. Yes, either one is okay. Don't know what to talk about, struggling to develop ideas, personal views, cannot understand the questions, repetition. I mean, there are so many different things that could be a challenge for Vietnamese. Let's continue on. So, a famous issue for everybody is the last sounds, and especially last s, last z, and we can include in there is as well. These are difficult for pronunciation. So instead of saying is, people will say I. Was, people will say wa. Place, play, and places. You'll hear some people just give a place and really longer. Now, I have noticed that this is changing over time. So I've been in Vietnam. Well, I came Christmas Day 2009. I did leave for a couple of years, but over 12 years here in Vietnam overall. And I have noticed the pronunciation has been improving, but these famous last sound issues, I still see them. Now, one thing I want to point out is that the last sound is also for the last sound in a syllable. So you see that letter S in customer. I hear people pronouncing it as customer. Hospital, instead they'll say hospital. Emphasizing the last sound in every sentence make you unnatural. It can be, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly there, Kuala. And so yes, not pronounced, not articulated. And this is the number one individual phoneme pronunciation problem because it is an especially common final sound. So you'll find it in just the regular vocabulary, as we showed up above, is, was, place. But think about present simple. He, she, it, and then we need to add that verb with s. Now, this can be a pronunciation problem, but I've also noticed this in my students' writing, where they forget to put the s on the verb. So it indicates to me that it's not just pronunciation, it's also a grammar issue. And then plural nouns. I'm sure you're already aware about one of the big differences between English and Vietnamese is that English, we don't just have uncountable nouns, which is how Vietnamese language treats all of their nouns, but also we have the countable nouns. And then if it's countable, should we be using singular with a or an, or should it be plural with an s on the end? And that is the most common ending. So most Vietnamese I found can articulate this. They can say this. It's just they usually don't. It's not produced as a last sound in your own language. And then many, when you learned it as a child, learned English as a child, you never learned to produce that last sound. So it's a very challenging issue. But other final sound issues, too much sounds. So a last T or a last D can be changed into an S sound. So hundred being pronounced as hundress sound. And same with the T. It can be pronounced as is. And then it can be added unnecessarily to words. So there are several different levels of pronunciation issues. Number one, not saying last sounds. But for some people, final T, final D changed into an S sound. And then a third group of people where they just add s to everything, nearly everything. And if you have this problem, it is many different words that are happening. One example of this being my family, pronounced as my families, which makes me wonder, wait, how many families do you have? So, rolling on, the key takeaway I want to share with you in this workshop is that you need to develop your own self-awareness. It's the number one takeaway. Get to know yourself. And we are talking about this with language, with English, but honestly, this is just a life lesson generally. What are your issues? So it can be about pronunciation, but for any aspect of life. And then you are the only one who can make change happen. A teacher can only show you the door. You have to choose to step through it and make these changes permanently. So, example, are you not saying the last sound? Then attack that issue. Dedicated practice over time is the only way that you're going to break this bad habit of pronunciation issue. And to get angry at mistakes. Why get angry? Well, so there's going to be a range of you out there. Some of you are going to be younger, some of you are going to be older. But what happens is at the age of puberty, when a boy starts becoming a man, when a girl starts to become a woman, there's a big shift that happens with the brain. And we start to lose access to passive learning, where as a child, we can just sit there. And if feeling of frustration, it's a type of anger. So get angry at the issues that you have. Don't let this happen. Fight it. All right, continuing on. So just a text solution. What can we be doing for individual phonemes? Elsa speak. Well, I know, not groundbreaking. Listen, there's going to be more later. Stay with me. But if you're looking for individual sounds, Elsa speak is pretty good with its freemium versions. Free. You can just get free work on these last sounds, these individual sounds. It's pretty good with it. And so we had that question about emphasizing. I found that with Elsa Speak, when I have experimented with it, they are overproducing these final sounds. So they're saying play s with an extra s to it. And that's fine if you don't say those last sounds. But once you start to produce them, you do need to bring them back a little bit. You don't want to overproduce because that will slow down some of the other aspects that you're going to need for the speaking test. And so, Hua Lam, to answer your question, you need to balance all of the different parts of the speaking test. It's not just about pronunciation and these sounds, but we also need other parts too. Of course, the vocabulary, the grammar, and then fluency and coherence. Thank you, Hannah. Yes, you're a good friend, huh? So yes, it is good for people that are development. So IELTS, the workshop brought to you by, I saw they had an introduction for me already. I'll do a quick one myself. So who am I? I'm Daniel F. Ullman. I also have a Vietnamese name, Teacher Dan, because of my black heart. Over 15 years of teaching experience in Canada, Japan, but also about 13 years in Vietnam with 2 years in Ho Chi Minh City, Ba Nam Dui in Hanoi, and now Da Nang has been Bai Nam Rui. I'm delighted to be representing IDP Vietnam as their IELTS expert again. I've been doing this for a while now with them, with Train to Trainer, Agents at Word event. Currently, I am an educator with RMIT, EIY and FPT Technology, and my own personal product, Innovative IELTS Insight. Previously, ILA Senior Teacher, KMS Technology, and Sacom Bank with the Director and Managers. I have been a teacher trainer for a while, lesson design, pronunciation skills, etc. I have been leaning into EdTech for nearly 10 years now. I believe that our smart devices are capable of taking us to the next level if we bring these in principled fashion. And then Celta Passe and Delta. But let's not spend too long on that. Workshop, what are we doing today? Well, it's about moving you from 6 to 7.5 in the 4 different areas that you are assessed. So pronunciation, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and fluency and coherence, and some general tips at the very end. So, the speaking band descriptors, well, what do you already know? I'm going to put in the Zoom chat a link to quizzes, and you have 1 minute to join, everybody. If you could please join this quizzes. Jump on in there. You have 1 minute to join. I can't let that go any longer because there's a lot of people here, and we've got stuff we need to get on with. So, I already hear people popping in. Great. 30 people in. We're now 30 seconds in. Sony from Japan has made it. Lynn with a star. Cyrus. Lenny Q. And Fem. 10 more seconds. You should be able to join after we start, but there may be a limit in the total number that we have. Ed? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, you should be able to join there, everybody, after we get this rolling. But let's get this show on the road. And what are the speaking band descriptors? There are multiple answers. You do need to submit your answer afterwards. 14 seconds. Au revoir. And tweet, don't forget to submit your answers. Time has run out. Right. And Leon, you'll definitely get some speaking part 2 tips. Oh, some people falling for my traps that I left there. We are talking about the speaking band descriptors. I see some people choosing task achievement. That is a writing. Same with coherence and cohesion. It is not coherence and cohesion, it is fluency. And coherence is the other speaking band descriptor. I know you're going to be angry at me now. Next question there, everybody. Only the one answer for this question. Which band descriptor talks about complex structures? 12 seconds. 20 seconds total to answer these questions. 8 altogether, 8 questions. so sorry, Foon. And a few more people getting it correct. Bindang, now in the top spot, followed closely by Emma. Complex structures is indeed talking about grammatical range and accuracy, and we will talk more about that later in the workshop. Next question. Which descriptor talks about idiomatic language? All of these different points that we bring up here will be discussed in detail. This is to warm you up. Learning should be done in layers, by the way. We should be looking for a more broader, general, and then try to get more detailed. Multiple times. Bindang, still holding on to the top spot. And number 4, nah, coming on up. Ooh, people getting distracted by the other descriptors. This is lexical resource. Lexical resource. A simple way to think about lexical resource is to think about it as vocabulary, but vocabulary is usually only one item, while we also have idioms, such as over the moon, and we'll talk about outdated idioms later too, passing with flying colors. Which descriptor talks about rhythm? Holding on to the top spot. Det, hello, welcome. Number 2, a lot of people choosing fluency and coherence, and I can understand that. I know when I first got into this, I saw some overlap between fluency and pronunciation, but rhythm falls under pronunciation, not under fluency. And again, we'll get more into that later. Next question. Which descriptor talks about repetition? Examples that I have seen with my students, they'll do things like which descriptor talks. I literally, this is what I will hear people say when they're doing answers to the IELTS speaking test. And boom, oh, Bindang still at the top spot. Det clinging to second place. This is fluency and coherence is what that's falling under. Next question. Hesitation, meaning waiting a long time before answering. Also falling under fluency and coherence. Nothing is taking Bindang down from the top spot. 2, 1, go. Collocation. First question was tricky. Thanks, I want some of these to be pushing you. None of these words come, like they all come from the band descriptors, the speaking band descriptors. 3, 2. Oh, goodbye, Ed. Ooh, Huang Min now up to the second spot. Lexical resource. Collocation, yes. Often seen as two words that go together, especially when you start to become more topic specific. So a simple example would be for architecture, ancient architecture. That would be a nice collocation for that. Next question, last question. Pop, pop, pop. Chunking. What is chunking? This is chunking. I'm giving an example. This is an example of chunking. When we speak in groups of words, and then we pause between the groups of words. This is chunking. And 64 answer 65. those who are greedy. Oh, Bindang. Holding on at the top spot. Huang Min, well done. Second place. That is, again, pronunciation. And I see a lot of people choosing fluency and coherence. Once again, I understand. Fluency and coherence is more about like longer stretches. Well, the chunking and the rhythm, these are going to be smaller, and that's why they're under pronunciation. So let's go and you were greedy, were you, Min? Oh, it's not going to show me the top three. Okay. Well done, Bindang was number three, Huang Min number two, and Huan is the big winner. Now, we were just talking about the speaking band descriptors, and you can access them online. They're easily and readily available. So let me share my screen with you so you can see it. So you can, of course, go to the IDP website. You can see the band descriptors are available here. You can see fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation, organized by the band descriptors, 9, 8, etc. So here is the first link. Alternatively, if you prefer a different organization from the IELTS website, again, in the Zoom chat, so they've got a slightly different organization where you can see the 9, and then it follows in the row, the fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy and pronunciation. Listen, you can look at it, you can check it out. If you are students, then I'm hesitant to encourage you to spend a lot of time examining this. I think it would be a good idea to spend a lot of your time on being better able to just use English, but yes, you can certainly spend some time on this. Regardless, let's get back into the presentation. Boom. So, speaking band descriptors, and so you can see I've copied the IELTS one in to my presentation. So, as I promised at the beginning, we're going to focus on pronunciation first. I've organized this kind of from the smaller parts of the language into the larger parts of the language. So, pronunciation. And our goal in this workshop is to move from 6. So here is the pronunciation and some key criteria I want to draw your attention to. Chunking is generally appropriate. Rhythm may be affected by a lack of stress timing and or rapid speech rate. And now the score of 7. Well, pronunciation gets a little messy where it's talking about all of the positive features of band 6. So you need to tick everything in band 6. If you do not have chunking, if you do not have idea groups, if you don't have those features, then you're not going to be able to get to 7. And then you can have some, but not all, of the positive features of 8. Well, what are the features of 8? Here is 8. Sustaining an appropriate rhythm. Flexible use of stress and intonation across long utterances despite occasional lapses. So let's come back to rhythm for a moment. A critical part of English is that English has a rhythm. English sounds like a bit of a dance. This is a big difference from Vietnamese. Vietnamese language is called a syllable timed language, which means every syllable is the same amount of time. And I will encounter Vietnamese who speak English like that. But please notice the way that I speak, and you'll see that I nod my head because English has a rhythm. English sounds like a bit of a dance. Okay, the students that nod their heads when they speak, they get better rhythm from it. Right, so what can we be doing to improve on these aspects? Again, developing self-awareness, tech opportunity. If you're here, then I assume that you have a smart device of some sort. You have a smartphone. Are you using this to record yourself and listen again? Now, a lot of people don't like to do this. Why don't we like to record ourselves and listen to it? Because of how we sound, right? We don't like the sound of our own voices. Why is that? Well, we hear a different voice. You got to understand, the voice is generated in here and it is going through your head, through your skull to your hearing area. And that's why you do sound different. If you want a low-tech way to find out how you actually sound, one hand here or here, and then one hand behind your ear, and it will reflect the sound waves back to you more. But you can record yourself. Now, listen, I hope you don't think I'm arrogant, but I have been told, oh, Teacher Dan, your voice so deep and low. I like your voice. Well, listen, maybe you think that too, but this is not my original voice. I have changed my voice over time. I have recorded and I have listened to myself and I have dedicated time to improving the way that I sound. And it does take time. And so this is one thing that you can be doing by recording yourself, and you need to get past that painful part of, oh, I don't like the way that I sound. I get it. Been there. Got through it. So, scripting an answer is one way that you could be improving on your speaking part two. Then you record yourself and you listen again. Okay, that's the basic level. And maybe some of you are doing this already. But then let's think about what is your target issue. And you need to, once again, what is your issue? What are your issues? And attack them systematically to remove them. So, are we talking about last sounds? Are we talking about countable nouns? Make a choice. So if we were going to go with the last sounds, for example, last s, last z, after you write the script, you review it and underline last s and last z sounds. Use, is, place. Record yourself speaking, and then when you do it, make sure to say the last sounds. Do it. And then you need to listen again. And when you're listening, did you actually say the last sounds? So, next level, next part, next opportunity. So, again, you're recording yourself, listening again, probably best for speaking part two. Authentic practice, meaning no script. Don't write it out in advance. You give yourself just that 1 minute to prepare, and then you attack and you record yourself. And then you upload your recording. You can use some AI to make your transcript. For example, I will often do feedback videos for my students on their speaking or their writing, and then I put it onto YouTube. And then YouTube will auto generate the subtitles for you. That will give you the transcript. You can copy that, and then you can compare the transcript, read and listen. Is it accurate? Fix it. If it's not perfect. It's AI. And after that, you can review the transcript for language areas, for pronunciation. ChatGPT with AI support. So it is today supposed to be about what can you be using with tech. Of course, we're going to talk about ChatGPT. My personal mindset is that if you're not using it, you're falling behind. But there are some valid concerns, and we'll talk about that shortly. AI isn't going to take your job. People who know how to use AI will take your job. There are valid concerns. What are some issues? Incorrect information, AI hallucination, data privacy. If you're using it, you link an account to it, then it's going to start to track everything that you do. The voice mode, I've heard of some creepy things about talking to ChatGPT, ChatGPT talking back, and this is something I will recommend later, but then ChatGPT using your own voice to talk back to you. A little bit scary. There are environmental costs. Using AI to answer questions takes a lot of resources, and it draws on a lot of electricity for this to be done correctly. And then over reliance on AI, your dependence on it, it can lead to a reduction in your skills, skill depletion. It can reduce your critical thinking, which is why I will almost always say, don't go to AI first. AI is your second or third step in what you're doing. What you want to be doing is try to do it on your own first. Come up with ideas on your own first before you go to the AI. Emma speaks face to face. Pronunciation is pretty good. When I record myself, the ending sounds are not being emphasized enough to be caught clearly in the recording. Uh-huh. My speaking source, since I heard my speaking will be recorded and evaluated later. Emma, so you're talking about the online speaking tests. If you're doing the online speaking test, you will be going through IDP. They will make sure that you've got a proper headset and a microphone that will be catching your sounds clearly. You won't need to worry about it, provided you are producing those last sounds. If for your own situation, I don't know what tech you are using, but if it is a smartphone, their microphones are usually pretty good. But if you're relying on a laptop, the microphones are not usually very good on laptops. You may want to get a dedicated microphone to make that work. All right, so anything else that I want to... Oh, yes, and then AI becoming sentient, meaning self-aware, and leading to the robot apocalypse, and we're all dying. I half joke, I don't know, maybe, but listen, I don't have control over AI. It's there, it's out there. It is a tool that we can be using. So why not? But up to you. Next, ChatGPT limitations. Pronunciation. No, it's only moderate in its accuracy. It is designed to understand, so it is very forgiving of mistakes. I've deliberately not said last sounds, and ChatGPT has fixed it for me, changing my uh, I produced a countable noun as uncountable, no S on the noun, and ChatGPT put the S on it. So its pronunciation, meh, don't rely on it for pronunciation. And it has some serious issues with coherence. Dubious in quality. It is potentially improving. I mean, every day they are working on making all of the different AI options better, but it is not fantastic at the English logic. More on that later. And be careful. ChatGPT is overconfident. It will confidently give you a band score, but don't believe it. Don't ask for that band score from ChatGPT. It's unrelated to reality. Okay, so voice to text transcription. I'm a big user of voice to text. It's the fastest way to input text into a smart device or into a document itself. It is better than what is available in smart devices. So Google Docs, MS Word, Facebook or Zalo, whatever's on your phone, it's all right, but it's not as good as ChatGPT for getting your words into text. So again, speaking part two, transfer. No script, so that we're doing context-dependent learning. 1 minute for the notes, speaking for up to 2 minutes. You get an authentic log of your actual speech. And then you have feedback potential. You can share this with your teachers if you have them, a tutor. But more immediately, you can prompt ChatGPT for feedback on your grammar and vocabulary. And this is one area where ChatGPT really shines. Mwah. Grammar and feedback editing is really good at that. So, and then after that, you can prompt it for language exercise suggestions. It's about improving your automaticity. How automatic are you in generating and producing speaking that is the correct grammar and the correct vocabulary? And that is a lot of it repetition, practice. Okay. Pronunciation, check, done. Next, lexical resource before grammar, fluency, coherence, and general tips. So, lexical resource. Again, the band descriptors, focusing on the six, taking us over to lexical resource. And vocabulary use may be inappropriate, but meaning is clear. Next up to 7. Some ability to use less common and idiomatic idioms, awareness of style and collocation, but inappropriacies occur. So 7, you could still be using the wrong words, but we need to be seeing more idioms and collocation. Be careful with idioms. We'll talk about that shortly. Continuing up to 8, because we want to try to get to that 7.5 at least, right? So again, skillful use of less common and idiomatic items. Occasional inaccuracies. It's about your frequency of mistakes. So, before we get into that, let's just talk briefly about idioms. So, idioms, ones that I've been hearing a lot lately with my students would be over the moon, ass with flying colors, um, even cup of tea. if somebody is using it in the positive, sports are my cup of tea. First of all, the first two, no native speaker. I've never heard a native speaker use these ones. Oh, there's another one, knee high to a grasshopper. I've never actually knee high to a grasshopper. I heard an African Canadian man who was 65 when I was 20. So we're talking about 25 years ago. Use that. So no native speaker today uses these expressions. Now, there's two levels that we need to be thinking about. There's the actual language itself, and examiners are supposed to be paying attention. Is this idiom suitable with the words that are around it? But then you also have to understand that there is an emotional level that is happening with examiners too. Uh, and I personally love it. But as a native speaker, they are predicting what should be said and how it should be said, including pronunciation. And if we are going off of what should be said, and there are differences in regions, differences between the broad British and American languages, but that's even too simple. But um, the example I want to tell you, so as a Canadian, I have a different pronunciation of oregano, basil, and herb. And I love to say these words around British people because they say it differently. And for them, it's wrong. And they have an emotional reaction. You can almost see them twitching because they want to correct me. So be very careful with learning idioms that are outdated, such as passing with flying colors, knee high to a grasshopper, and over the moon. Because then, on an emotional level, an examiner is going to be noticing and going, this person's, even if it might be appropriate with the words that are allowed around it. All right, sure, Hung Chang. All right, so glad to see that in his 40s, but I've never heard other native speakers using that. So if I take face-to-face speaking examiner test from Emily asking, so if I take a face-to-face speaking test, will the examiner who interviews me is the one who gives me for the speaking skill? Yes, yes, you may get reassessed. Raining cats and dogs. I have never heard a native speaker use raining cats and dogs there, Cyrus. Never. Uh, yeah, so I would generally avoid those. Instead, I'd be encouraging my students to get a broader understanding of topics, different topics, topic education. Now, some of you are going to be cost an arm and a leg. Yeah, I've heard that. Some of you are high school students, some maybe even younger. I've taught students as young as 12. I gave a mock test to a 9-year-old once. The reality is that if you are younger, you have less life experience or knowledge. And even a university student, 45 years old, I've been alive longer. I just know more about the world. I did a reading test one time. I didn't even read the passage. I just read the questions, and I got 75% correct on the answers because I knew the topic. So learn about different topics. Now, nothing replaces input for language development. And I'm going to come back to this. Consuming extensive reading and listening results in better language learners, language users. I cannot tell you the number of Vietnamese that I've met who are pretty good English users because of the TV show Friends. And this is underdeveloped, too often underdeveloped. People are only studying, trying to use, but they're not listening, they're not reading enough. So my favorite homework, watch English TV shows. It doesn't have to be TV, Netflix, YouTube, whatever you want to watch. And then spend 10 minutes a week discussing recent shows. This is authentic. I do this. I do this with my friends. I recommend shows for friends to watch and get shows from others. And then this leads to knock-on improvements for listening comprehension and speaking with the chunking and English stress-timed rhythm. Yes, not my chun. Good. Yeah, don't use the idioms because I feel confused whenever I use them in context. If you're not confident with something, don't use it. So AI. So if you don't have the time, I know you don't have the time. You're all busy. If you're in school, you probably have extra classes in addition to the homework from your regular school. If you're a professional, you're working and you're trying to develop your English at the same time. Maybe you have a family. Where is the time? Well, so you can try to fast track topic education. So what are the potential benefits of space tourism? AI can give you the idea of economic growth. Developing industry space tourism could create new markets, job opportunities, boosting the global economy. Technological advancements. Early investment in space tourism could drive innovations in transportation and safety, benefiting other sectors long term. Environmental awareness. Experiencing Earth from space could inspire lifelong environmental stewardship among tourists. Dot, dot, dot. You get the point where you can get some ideas from this. People said at the beginning, I don't have ideas for it. You need to educate yourself on the different topics. This is one way. And then we can be getting into topic specific vocabulary, the collocations that you need, that higher level vocabulary examiners will be looking. So AI prompt to supply vocabulary for questions and topics. And then you have the option to translate this into Vietnamese with the AI. ChatGPT is better than Google Translate, especially longer texts. What is this? So example, speaking part 3 question. What is the value in restoring historical places? Well, and here is a model answer from it. I'll leave you for a moment to read it. I'll keep quiet while you read this. Issues. Issues with this answer? What are some problems you see with this? Is it a perfect answer? You could put in the Zoom chat. Yeah, I mean, so Min saying that Huang Min saying that we don't need to give any prompts. Well, I mean, you need to give a prompt, but you can ask it what is the question. You can put a question into it, and it can give you an answer, and it'll give you some nice language with it. However, uh, it can sound a little bit robotic to some people. Technical written language, written too formal are some of the messages. Lack of signposts. In IELTS speak, this would be called discourse marker or cohesive devices, but you're right, Quinn Lee, lack of signposts. Um, right, low level, although keep in mind this is supposed to be 6 to 7.5. So it's not about people that are 4.0 for these type of questions. Won't be able to produce this while speaking. Yes, this is something that you can be using to educate yourself. One thing that jumped out at me is the number of times that heritage came out. Heritage, heritage, heritage could be seen as repeating the lexis, repeating of the vocabulary. It's not. I mean, it's part of another term, but it's not 100% perfect of an answer. So be careful with relying only on AI for for giving you these answers and for improving your language. Tech is an important part that can help you to improve, but formal study still needs to happen, and you still need to be going to experts, I believe, to bring yourself to the highest levels. Chun, long answers, not my Chun commenting lengthy. That may will make the examiner will be confusing. The Vietnamese translation for people. We do need to have longer answers for speaking part 3, and we'll talk about the English logic later, but that's fine. And examiners may interrupt, but they should be able to follow the coherence of something. Next, grammatical range and accuracy, then fluency and coherence before getting to general tips. So, grammatical range and accuracy. Again, starting us off at level 6. And this is where we get into the structures. So, mix of short and complex sentence forms, variety of structures with limited flexibility. Up to level 7. Simple and complex used effectively despite some errors. A few basic errors persist. And then up to number 8. Occasional inappropriacies and non-systematic errors. A few basic errors may persist. Now, this is one thing I want to point out. One thing I noticed when I started to study the band descriptors in depth is that even though we are receiving a number and it feels like it's quantitative in its score, it's actually a qualitative assessment. And people get very excited about the numbers, but what's the difference between a few basic errors may persist and number 7, a few basic errors persist? They're very similar. The difference being the may persist. So it's the frequency that's happening. And so that's why I'm encouraging you to be careful with those outdated idioms as well, where there is a bit of an emotional side to the scoring of the IELTS test. And research has indicated that, especially near the beginning of the test, if the examiner hears mistakes that are happening, and this could be on the emotional level, then they're going to start to look for more mistakes. But if they see positive features, then they're going to start to look for more positive features. Continuing on. So, grammar beyond the tenses. So, of course, we do need to be using the different grammatical tenses: present simple, past continuous, future perfect, etc. We need to be able to use these correctly. But we also need to be doing complex sentences. So, as I was playing Lian Quan, my mom called me for dinner. Yes, I do play. My favorite character is Natalia. Although I started playing with Volkoth recently. If we study hard, we can get a 7.5 on the IELTS. Woo! And then next, this new Dan Vo song, which was released yesterday, is already on repeat. It's so good. Need to have at least one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. And these are going to be joined by subordinating conjunctions such as, unless, if, because, and so on, or who, whom, that, which, what, relative pronouns. Now, if you're only producing these ones, I'm sorry, that's not enough. You need to be able to stack multiple dependent clauses together with grammatical accuracy. So ChatGPT and the audio, we already talked about this with the pronunciation area. But you probably are aware that you can do voice mode with ChatGPT. And then you can get feedback. You can prompt it for the grammar. And I've got an examiner set up that I will share with you, because that's one thing about ChatGPT. If you don't set it up correctly, it's very happy. It's very cheerful. It will give you a lot of affirmations about how great your ideas are. No examiner is going to do that. So, yes. And how can I know which idioms are outdated? So Ang, I'm not sure about websites that are talking about outdated ones, but you can certainly be going to italki, where you can post things onto there, and experts will chime in and let you know if language is useful or not. So yeah, and then just watch modern shows. You'll see what's being used. Right. So fluency and coherence. So right, coming back to the complex sentences. So the issue that can happen, as we said, you need to have more than just this to be getting a higher level grammar scores. But what will happen with the students once they start to get into longer sentences? That's when the grammar, so then we're talking about the present simple, the past perfect, the future continuous. That's where they start to make the mistakes. So that's why ChatGPT can be very good, or whatever AI is your preferred one. I know there's a bunch of different ones like Claude and Gemini, and getting it for that. So fluency and coherence next, and then some general tips. So fluency and coherence. Again, starting at the band descriptor of 6. Coherence may be lost at times as a result of the hesitations, the repetition and self-correction. Uh, coherence, coming back a moment. If you are not familiar with this word, coherence, this is talking about logic, the English logic, the development of ideas. So, continuing on. Well, idioms you learn by heart without context. Yeah, the context is key, as Huang Ming is talking about in the chat. Yeah, be very careful with watching TikTok videos that are just throwing out idioms. Go and if you like an idiom, you can Google it and look for what are the other words that are around it that bring it in. But we're going to continue with the fluency and coherence, and you'll see again some hesitation, repetition, self-correction may occur. Indicate problems with accessing appropriate language. So this is indicating the issues with the automaticity of production. And this is first, again, we need the input first, and then we need to be using it. Do not leave it all in your head. We need to be bringing it out too. And then hesitation may occasionally be used to find words or grammar, but most of the hesitation will be content related. So, developing fluency. This was something I put some research in. Like, how do I help my students speak faster and longer? The key, you're not going to be happy with me. You need to have subject knowledge. Awkward silence, right? Like, this is your big key. I need to know more. Yeah, yeah. And that's why I've talked before, and I'm saying it again. We need to invest in extensive reading and listening. To optimize your chances of having the best score possible, you need to essentially be a polymath. New vocabulary for some. This means you need to be an expert or at least able to talk about many different subjects knowledgeably. And IELTS is always updating the topics and questions that will be talked about. So go and learn as much as you can of the different topics. So seeing some messages from Dung. Why do some examiners keep interrupting? Yes, examiners can interrupt you. Listen, I can't speak for that examiner. I don't know what the examiner was thinking. Could be off topic, could be that they want to push you to develop your ideas more. It'll depend on each situation, but examiners can interrupt you. Try not to get stressed out by it. There's thousands of different examiners out there in the world, and they all have different personalities. So you'll have some that are very friendly and very professional. Some will be cool and distant. Some may even, I've heard students say they seem angry. So try not to let that throw you off. Try to do what you're doing and roll with it. John Ricatti saying ChatGPT asking for outdated idioms. Be careful with that. Try not to spend too much time looking at it. It could be the more that you encounter an old idiom, the more it starts to go into you, and you may start to use it reflexively. So do be careful with that. But to follow up on John Ricatti's point, is if you learn a new idiom, if you see a new idiom, put it into ChatGPT. Ask, is this outdated? If it is yes, yeet, don't learn it. Continuing on. So developing your world knowledge. And so there's a lot of ways that we can be doing that. Podcasts, shows, news, practice IELTS tests. Sure, you can do that too. Reading and listening. And then excursive listening. So branching out into topics triggered by the initial reading. So for example, if I am deciding to learn about Ho Chi Minh, uh, I want to educate myself on this country's hero, and then I discover about the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. Hmm. Oh, that's interesting. And so I jump from Ho Chi Minh to Dien Bien Phu. And then I discover General Va Nguyen Giap, or Va Nguyen Giap, depending on your pronunciation, and I decide to learn more about this Vietnamese hero. This is excursive learning, where one bit of information leads you to another, leads you to another. Um, but then we also need to be doing recursive learning, coming back to the same topic from a different angle. So, for example, maybe I am learning about Ho Chi Minh from Wikipedia, and then after that, I go and I get a book on Ho Chi Minh and I read it. And now I've got two sources where I learn and it deepens my understanding of that. Then I watch a documentary or whatever for it. So, should you use the same source repeatedly? It's okay. But you should be trying to get other sources and be careful with rote memorization and learning by heart. This is, with most teaching methodologies, this is considered one level of understanding, but a more lower level. We need to be looking at creative application of information in new situations, like being able to answer IELTS speaking test questions. If we only have rote memorization, like memorized answers, I have seen students with memorized answers, then they have limited flexibility. Uh, yes, right. Continuing on. When we have not my chun, I think when we have enough point, I got the speaking test on 14th, speaking part 3. I had said 1 point in example. That's enough. And next question. Yeah, that can happen, chun. So, audio interaction with ChatGPT. You can instruct ChatGPT to play the role of an IELTS speaking examiner. I'll share with a document with you here shortly where you can paste in instructions to make it more authentic. And then you have the potential to practice any speaking section, but it's best for speaking part 1, prompted to ask any typical speaking part 1 questions for whatever topics. And the topics I would recommend are ones that you've been reviewing or ones that you don't feel confident about. Attack your weaknesses. But then speaking part 3 is where it can really shine. Same as above, but critically, you can instruct it to ask follow-up questions that challenge participants on your answers, much as an IELTS examiner will do. And this is where the people who are memorizing answers to the different questions, this is where they will fall down, is on part 3, because you cannot anticipate always the follow-up questions the examiner will ask, and they'll often know if you've memorized an answer, and so they'll push you at that point. So having practice with this through ChatGPT is a useful method. Yes, Quinn Lee talking about examiners being nice. Switch topics very fast. 4 topics part 1, 1 to 2 questions each. Got like 3 subtopics in part 3, 2 questions each. Yes, yes, exactly, Quinn Lee. Memorize. I mean, come on. If we're only memorizing answers, then we're not actually learning how to use the language. We need flexibility. Pardon. Okay, continuing on. So, examiner practice, audio interaction with ChatGPT, the prompts. Let me grab those prompts for you and I will pass them along so that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this with you. I think that this is not new for a lot of people anymore, about being able to do the audio interaction with people, but with ChatGPT. But if you haven't changed ChatGPT to make it act more like an examiner, then this document will be useful for you. So in the Zoom chat, once again, here you go. Again, I'm not going to spend any time on this. This is for your own resource later. You can take this and put it into ChatGPT. But people that I see a lot of people opening the document already. Just save this, everyone. Save it, because I'm gonna keep going here. I see not my chun. Think if we have enough points, the examiner will stop, or too lengthy or off topics, we should, yes, do be trying to stay on topic. And again, we'll be talking about this here shortly. Would like to test the candidate's quick response. A quick response is part of it, Chun, but even for me, I mean, I am a native speaker. I'm aware of a few different topics. I feel like I have some rapidity in my production. I can do this kind of quickly sometimes. But if somebody asks me a question that I'm not ready for, I will blink and then take a moment to get my answer going. Now, using a filler at that point, that's one thing that is good to memorize is a filler. Like, that's an interesting question. And try to save that for part three. I've had some of my students do that in part one. What's your name? Hmm, that's an interesting question. Yeah. Juan. Juan asking in the chat, if I make a grammar mistake while speaking, should I correct myself or keep going? Juan, oi, correct yourself. Try not to do that too often. I make grammar mistakes in live production. That happens. But if you are self-correcting, that is in the fluency and coherence score. If you're doing it too often, then it's going to lower your fluency and coherence. However, if you're not fixing your grammar mistakes, then the examiner's thinking, grammar mistake, right? So, yes. Glad you're finding that useful, John Ricati. Accent. Juan asking, does accent affect my score? Yes and no. If your accent is so strong that people have a hard time understanding you, yes. And that's also for native speakers there, Juan. There are some native speaking accents that are not internationally recognizable. So if you've heard of Cockney or Scouse, which are British accents, I have a hard time understanding those people, right? So if I have a hard time understanding them, they would actually get a lower score on the pronunciation, despite being a native speaker. So just because a person's native speaker does not mean that they can get a 9. Right, so those are the prompts, QR code for the same prompts, and boom. Continuing on, the English logic. Consider, what do you think is a good answer to which method of travel do you consider safest? Don't write anything. Don't put it in the Zoom chat. Don't need to. Just think about it. Consider it for a moment. And I'll take a moment to water my vocal cords. All right. Continuing on. Model answer. Now, this is not a don't use this as an answer, but a common answer I had. So I did a bunch of mock speaking tests with this question. How could this answer be improved? In my opinion, cars are the most safety because they are comfortable. You can drive really long distances. Also, you have personal control. All right, in the Zoom chat, how could this be improved? So in the Zoom chat, I see Carolyn, me, compare, Emily, explain why. It doesn't say why the cars are safe. It is off topic, incoherent. Use while to connect two sentences. Use more advanced vocab. Be a bit more descriptive. Need more complex compound sentences. Wow. More personal reasons and example. Suggest using ChatGPT to correct it. Yes, well, but the topic is about safety. Comfortable? Is comfortable about safety? I could I could see a way to connect comfort to safety, but it's not done here. By being more comfortable, a person is able to achieve a higher level of focus and likely result in fewer accidents happening. Yeah. Right? Drive really long distances. How is that about safety? And then personal control. I mean, maybe you personally think that you're a good driver, but I have news for you. Everybody thinks they're a good driver. Is there anybody that's like, oh no, not me. I'm a terrible driver. No, nobody says that. I mean, listen, maybe there's an exception out there, but most people think that they're good drivers, and yet we still have. I, I hope you're not one of those people who is riding a motorbike and texting a friend at the same. That's not safe. Watching a video while riding a motorbike or driving a car. I mean, the reality is, where's the number one place that we might die in the world? It's on the road out there, right? And so, our focus should be 100% on the road, regardless. Don't get me wound up on this. Yes. So, focus on the keyword. And make sure your answer is on topic, not about what's easy, but what is the topic about. Right, so let's get into the so-called English logic. I don't, you'll notice the quotation marks. I don't feel 100% confident. I don't feel 100% comfortable using this because it sounds a little bit arrogant about English using the logic. But see what I'm going to do here next, and you'll see why it's called the English logic. So the English logical progression, the basic three, you'll see it's often depicted as an upside down triangle because of the scope of the answer from it. And this also applies to writing, English writing, especially writing task two. Your topic sentence, your supporting idea, and your supporting evidence, a real world example. So, same question. There's a lot to recommend cars in terms of personal safety, especially if compared to motorbikes, which is the most common means of transport in Vietnam. Supporting idea, cars are equipped with a lot of safety features, which keep improving each year. Supporting evidence, a prime example of these include the car's exterior made of durable materials like metal and plastic, seatbelts, and modern cars equipped with proximity sensors that beep when close to obstacles. So, focusing on that first sentence, and why is this so broad? Well, I mean, all we're talking about with our topic sentence is cars versus bikes. It's still very broad. Then we focus in on the supporting idea with the safety features. But, I mean, look at a car and all of these different safety features that we could be talking about with a car. There are a lot. Then we hone in with the real world examples. Now, this is where most of my students fall down. They don't give the real world example. You, with English, you treat the other person like they're a little bit thick sometimes with these real world examples. Don't leave the idea abstract and in the clouds. Illustrate it with what happens in the world around us. And so, out of all of these different ones, the outer area, the safety belts, and it doesn't even have the proximity sensors. So into the Zoom chat, you say we need to stay on topic, but can we still be on topic, but a bit off the question because of our idea expansion? Huang Ming, this is about also being concise. As you notice with other people talking, how the examiners will interrupt. If I suspect, I'm not all of the examiners at IDP, so I can't speak on their behalf, but I suspect that some of them will be ready, maybe too ready, anticipating, oh, this person's off topic, and interrupting because they think you're off topic. So try to get your answers tight and focused on what you need to be talking about. Kong Nguyen, concern as well as my students in general that I would love you to validate. The question is, if test takers make an attempt to use big and academic words, yet the way they say it is awkward, and you clearly feel the crudeness of it, not in sync with the level of the word. Listen, I mean, try to use the words that you're comfortable with. We need to push ourselves with our vocabulary. Even for me, I have been working on using more advanced vocabulary. Recently, I have been building optimize into my language more often. And I've been personally making a choice to use exquisite more often. These are fantastic words. They're just so beautiful. But it does, we need to be sure of the context. What are the words that should be around it? What are the topics that should be used for this? So, Kongwen, in class, push, but for the test, use what we are comfortable with in some. General tips, prioritizing improvement areas. So some general tips. Bink. Again, coming back to the point, prioritize growth areas. What is challenging for you? Attack that. One thing you can do, you can research common topics. I know that out there, there are prediction sites. Some people have told me that these prediction sites for the topics are pretty accurate. I'm not going to comment on that, but go and have a look at the topics that you don't feel comfortable with and attack those. Educate yourself on them. First, extensive reading and listening, ideally, if you can. If you don't have the time, using the AI to build up your knowledge with some bullet points on that. And then after that, build from there. And then we need to make sure that we're using it, practice it. Which ones are you concerned about? Learn about those. And so coming back to that topic education that I talked about with lexical resource and topic specific vocabulary, that advanced vocabulary that Kong Wen had been asking about, learn these, practice using these, get feedback on it in various ways, and try to become more competent with them. And boom, I've been ranting about the investing in extensive as much as you can. Read graded readers, news, blogs, listen to shows and podcasts and YouTube and TikTok. Try to do this for pleasure if you can. Do this for fun, ideally. I mean, listen, how much can you leverage your hobbies to help you for success in other areas in life? I mean, are you watching Korean romances? Are you learning Korean? Okay, then sure. But I mean, I promise you, there's a lot of good English romance shows out there. Why not watch those instead? Now, coming back to the point of the issue of not enough time. How can I squeeze more out of my day? Well, there are times that we are doing things that don't take our higher level intelligence. For example, household chores. If I'm washing dishes at the sink, I've got a podcast on. Now, maybe this podcast is for fun, or maybe it's something that I'm educating myself on, but this is time that you could be developing at the same time. Exercising. If you go out for a jog or a walk or something like that, a podcast could be in your ear, right? Uh, Personal hygiene moments. These are opportunities for learning and for pleasure, and then as a hobby, yes. All right, boom. And then the tech solution. Right, for developing English Central, I've come across this one recently. Has a lot of different videos out there, English videos, many different topics, business, social, talking about food, etc. While you're watching the video, it's showing the subtitles or closed captions, whatever you want to call it, and every word in the subtitles, you can click on them. And if it's new vocabulary, it gives you a definition, it gives you the pronunciation of it. Uh, and then later, you get to re-watch the video and you get some typing practice where you'll type in the vocabulary that is missing from it. And in another workshop I created, I have argued strongly about investing in 21st century skills about typing itself. Well, it's not even 21st century, is it? Learning to type fast, quickly. Learning to type is such a useful skill. And so many people don't learn how to type. This is not going anywhere anytime soon. We're going to continue to use keyboards for at least 5 more years, if not longer. So learn how to type quickly. If you only type 20 words per minute, IELTS writing, well, think about how long that is going to take with IELTS writing if you only do 20 words per minute, task 2. But if you can type 100 words per minute, that's how fast I can type, 100 words per minute, 250 words. In theory, I could finish writing task 2 in 2.5 minutes, right? Same thing. You're going to need typing for pretty much everything. Now, almost done. Typing with English Central, you can sign up for one-to-one tutoring with a live coach. That does cost money. Issues with it, limited number of free videos. I mean, the workaround, you create more accounts, but then you'd lose the vocabulary that you have been studying. And there's a feature where it records the speaking, it records you speaking, missing vocabulary. No, it is not accurate. I deliberately butchered the pronunciation and it didn't work. So, I mean, actually, it did work and it shouldn't have. Right. Finally, questions. I have been answering questions as we go, but do you have any questions? Looking into the Zoom chat, what have I missed? So, Kongwen, I answered that one. Duk Ang Chung, how do we come up with ideas or think in a way that help us to answer questions, not topics, though? We might already come up with the information related to the question, but I can't figure out how to connect it all naturally. Okay, so Duk Ang Tong, how do you answer questions not topic? That was about that English logic, the upside down triangle. Practice giving your answers with your topic sentence. Refine it more into a supporting idea. Illustrate it with a real world example. Practice doing that a lot. That's your basic way of doing it. That said, there are clearly other ways of doing things. There are more advanced ways, so consume as much as you can with it. Other questions coming in. Can I get a 7.5 if I do not use big words? No, Emma. Not even a 7. Well, I mean, listen, Emma, the rest of the scores, I don't think so, Emma. You're going to need to have your topic specific vocabulary in order to get 7 or higher. That's collocations, the juicy stuff that the examiners will go, "Ooh, interesting, good vocabulary." All right. Other questions? Feel free to raise your hand too if you want to talk to me. Talk a bit about how to better tackle task 2, like what the strategy is. I mean, you're telling a story basically, Huang Min. You need to answer being able to tell a story better, and so practicing storytelling generally is a useful skill. I love to. I've been born with the gift of gab, so I'm able to do this. But it's something that I refined and I practiced in my head before telling stories. So doing these more often. You've got the 4 different bullet points that happen with speaking part 2. The first 2 points honestly should have no notes. You don't need it. Just reading it should trigger the information you want to talk about. But points 3 and 4, I'm a big fan of mind mapping, and there's a lot of resources out there on how to do mind maps. There's a YouTuber, Justin Sung, who does a lot of mind mapping work on that as a study tool. But mind mapping applies for speaking part 2 note taking, and it also for writing task 2. It's great. And if you do mind mapping correctly, that hierarchy of English argument building of topic sentence supporting idea real world example gets built into it. So just making sure you stay on topic and keeping relevant with it, organizing the order of your information, it matters in English. Yes. Where are we? Next person. So, ooh, we got a few messages in there. I have another answer typed above one, in the typed above one from Kong. Did I miss one from Kong then? One more question. Should confidence or naturalness be considered to the overall assessment by the examiners? Officially, no. Unofficially, yes. It's all part of, like I said, there's 2 levels that are going to be happening. Sorry, I should say 2 levels, not 2 levels. 2 levels that should be happening where there is the official, where they examine the language, but an examiner's also, it's just like life. We judge people by how they interact with us. That first impression matters. Uh, Developing confidence is not something that's easy to do. And stress management is something that IELTS teachers should be passing along to students as well. A lot of students, I mean, they take the IELTS test once, likely, in their life. We do have the one skill retake, great, but it's a one-time exam. There's a lot of pressure on that. For a lot of people, it's a lot of money to pay for that test too. And then when they get to the day of the test, literally shaking going in. So stress management is a skill that's transfer value beyond IELTS, just like typing. Learning how to do that in some breath work is an important part of that. Sorry about missing that question there, Kongwen. Next, some people have reverse logic. They tend to think specifically first and then generalize their ideas. Trying to tie it all together, you can certainly lead with an example. You can see that in body paragraphs in writing task 2, leading with an example. That can happen. Just make sure it's all tied together. Speaking part 2, 1 minute 35 seconds. Dramatically, Tian, you want to be trying to get ideally above a minute 40, a minute 50 if you can. So practicing it a lot and trying to get a feel for how long that is. An examiner will only cut you off if you go too long. If you're below that amount of time, then the examiner may push you to speak longer. Emma Lay, my problem with listening test. Oh, okay, Emma. This is about speaking, but I'll read your question. I understand everything in the audio, but I can't remember the detailed information that I need for some answers. Emma, try to be answering as you go. So I believe that we're all computer-based now with the IELTS tests across the country. Da Nang just had a change where the March has been the last month for the paper-based. It's going computer-based after that. So yes, while you're listening, typing the answers as you go, inputting them as it happens would be my recommendation. How can I take notes in part 2 fast and effectively? Huang and sorry, I can't see the rest of your name. I see that's a D. So we talked about mind mapping. The first 2 bullet points of speaking part 2 don't need to be written down. As soon as you read them, it should prompt you with ideas. The other thing that you should be investing in is learning how to do shorthand slash abbreviations. What do I mean by that? Instead of writing the word people, PPL, using symbols instead of writing. You should not be writing full sentences. You should not be writing full words. What is the point of speaking part 2 notes? Are you going to give the notes to the examiner and they will mark your notes? No, the notes are for you. I like to think of the speaking part 2 notes and the writing task 2 plan as a love letter to my future self to help me remember what I need to be talking about. Get your notes ideally with the mind map so that they are coherent, that you are progressing through in telling your ideas. What do we have next? Part 2. Chungwen, I think. I'd like to ask if there is there a difference in speaking style for part 1 and part 3? Like, do we have to be more formal for part 3? Chungwen. Um, so it's a test, and so we shouldn't be too informal with the test. We should not greet the examiner with "what's up" or "yo" or "bro." Don't be calling them bro or bruh. But there should be a level of formality to all of it. If you want to be getting the highest level scores, you should be coming in with your topic-specific vocabulary for everything and advanced structures all the way from the start. Some people view part 1 as only warm-up and not giving the highest levels. No, all of it. A lot of people who got a really high band score in speaking often give the same kind of advice, like talking to the examiner as your close friend. Band 6, should they try the same or should they try to impress the examiner? I recommend trying to impress the examiner. I mean, if you can change it into a conversation, yes, that would be nice if you have that confidence. But otherwise, I recommend that people be trying to show off the highest level of their abilities. Expand my answer in part 3 quite comfortably, so should I just keep speaking until they interrupt me? No. Ming, finish your point. Because then now you're starting to get onto the emotional level where the examiner's like, oh God, this guy's still talking. You ideally you want to be coming up with 2 ideas to support each point that you're making. So idea and real world example. You have heard people messaging, or you've seen people messaging in the Zoom chat that I am interrupted after one example. Okay, there you go. It can happen. Be ready for that. But if you have finished your point, then just finish it, to tie it off, move on. Next, can I ask the examiner to repeat? Yes, Mai Nguyen asking, can I ask the examiner to repeat or paraphrase the question? Yes, you can. You can ask them to repeat the question for part 1. You can ask them to paraphrase for part 3. Yes, you can ask it for twice. Don't go any longer than that, Mai Nguyen. It's indicating that you do have language issues if you're not understanding it. I'd like to ask, is there a difference in speaking style? Yes, I just answered that one, Chung one. I would recommend being formal from the beginning and answering it with the best of your abilities, the best vocabulary. Part 3, when Mai talking about listening again. Part 3, listening. Mai, just a quick one on this one because we're supposed to be focusing on speaking here today. My recommendation is that part 3, it can be about focus issues. I mean, I don't know. I would need to see the mistakes that you're making and diagnose where the issue is coming from. Without seeing that, I can't really tell you. My recommendation is practice as much as you can. There's a lovely website, Mini IELTS, out there that you can go check. They've got lots of reading and listening practice tests. I don't know about how good everything is, but you're going to get more practice with it. Nguyen Ang, is it okay to talk more than 2 minutes? No, the examiner will interrupt you. Stop. Again, you're getting onto that emotional level. If she's not stopping when I ask her to stop, that's rude. Listen, stop. Yeah. Kong Wen, thank you. You're welcome, Kong Wen. Mai Nguyen, can I ask a yes? Yes, Mai answered that question. Huang Ming, how do you approach increasing input for part two? It's quite personal, so ChatGPT. Yes. Yeah, and so Huang Min, that's why I say ChatGPT should be the second step. First step should be you. What would you naturally talk about on your own first? Craft a story. If you're going to go with a script, write it all out, and then you can put it into ChatGPT to improve it. Tuan Nguyen Lei, can you help to clarify what's the key points between 6.5 and 7? How should we prepare and fill that gap? So I mean, it depends on all of those different points that I pointed out in the presentation here, Tuan Nguyen Lei, about, fluency and coherence, your repetitions, your hesitations. Are you developing the topic in a logical way? 6 to 7 with vocabulary is topic specific vocabulary, collocations, idioms, grammar, complex sentences used correctly. And then with pronunciation, you got to be hitting your last sounds, cannot have any pronunciation mistakes. You need to be doing chunking, speaking in groups of words, and rhythm. The speaking part 3, going straight to the point without rambling. How to, oh, sorry, Lei Huyen, I have a question that how to speak in part 3, going straight to the point without rambling off content. Lei, this is something that you need to develop. And so, as I mentioned with Huang Ming, where he was talking about, I need to get to my point, maybe I go off a little topic. We need to be concise, and this is a skill that we practice. Asking yourself, is this on topic? And if you're not sure, going to ChatGPT, it might help you, or getting a teacher, a tutor to help you with these points. Do not have the knowledge about specific topics. Can I ask? No, MLA, change the topic politely. I do not recommend that. My recommendation with that one is a thought strategy, cradle to the grave. You can look that up and go and explore things more deeply. It's a critical thinking strategy where you try to consider a topic from the beginning of whatever it is and then extrapolate to the end of it. Dong Not Tao Nguyen, sure. I see you just a moment. I see a few written questions that were first. If you want to keep your hand up, then I will call on you to talk. How long should I pause to think of more ideas? Tian Tang, minimal pausing. Don't want to think too long. Use a filler. That's an interesting question. Ngok Chen, are you penalized if you go until you are stopped? Provided your answer is coherent and on topic, no, you're not penalized. There was a hand raised. Could you raise your hand again? Happy to chat with you. I think that was Dong Ngok Tao Nguyen. No? Gone? Right. Tian Tang, should I believe all the speaking mock test assessments on YouTube because they're evaluations? Tian Tang, be very careful with any source that's online that is coming from outside of your established institutions. IDP, IELTS, any of the IELTS providers. Anything outside of that, you can't know if they're correct. Reliable grading, IDP, IELTS sources out there and feedback. Yeah. In terms of grammar, should we use reversion? On one hand, it's advanced. On the other hand, I guess it's uncommon and spoken language. Be careful there, Carol and me, with some things that are atypical, not usual, only if you feel absolutely confident in it. You're welcome, Tian Tang. Don't use any idioms, Tui Changwen. Is it okay if you don't use any idioms? I argue that we should be very careful with idioms. You can try to use some more common ones that are out there, but topic-specific vocabulary with collocations that are advanced will be catching examiners notice and should be able to get you higher scores. How can I think about the next idea while I'm speaking to improve it? Huang Min Ti Nguyen. I want to ask, how can I think about the next idea while I'm speaking to improve it better? I mean, this is where we need to become experts on the topic so that we're already considering the points. The other thing to Huang Min Ti Nguyen is to be there are some common topics, common answers that examiners will expect you to talk about. So educating yourselves on these topics in advance is the key to this. Fung Mak. Aim for 8 or higher. Okay, well, this workshop's supposed to be 7.5 top, but okay. Is it okay to give short answers in speaking part 3? You want to, I mean, without having seen the answer, I can't really comment on it, but the example answer I gave to you, where about the cars, I feel that would not be enough. I would be moving into talking about the motorbikes afterwards and comparing the car to the motorbike and how motorbikes are not safe. They're not safe for driving around on. Not my turn. Mr. Chris Pell. Ah, Mr. Chris Pell, IELTS Advantage. IELTS Advantage is a great site, by the way. A lot of English teachers cut their teeth. There's an idiom for you. IELTS Advantage, the site, and IELTS Jackie. Those are some nice English sites for educating you on how to do all parts of the IELTS tests. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chris Pell was an examiner. I don't believe he is anymore because he's gone so much into this business. So he would be pretty accurate. Although IELTS has updated the band descriptors back in 2023. So, you know, he may be a little bit off, but I think he'd be pretty good. I cannot speak about Adrian. I'm not familiar with Adrian. Cyrus Nguyen, what clues does an examiner often use to determine if a candidate's answer is memorized or not? Listen, it's pretty obvious when something is memorized. Most people are not good actors. So there will be intonation that's not there. The person's like, and you can see them like rolling their eyes up as they're trying to remember the memorized answer. Yeah, it's obvious. Yui or Zui Nguyen, can I get a band-aid if using too little idiomatic language? Thank you. I mean, it's in the descriptors that you should be using idiomatic language. Just be careful with using outdated ones. What about Pelt's answers? Pelt's answers and then a link IELTS answers. Sorry there, Carolyn, me. I can't just open the site in the moment and too many other things on the go and review it. So I cannot comment on that at this moment. I am unfamiliar with it, but thank you for sharing the link and I'll definitely check that out on my own. Intonation. No. Huang Min, do you think that intonation usually only comes after we reach a certain level of mastery in our coherence and fluency? No. I have seen some people with some nice intonation at much lower levels, but then not having good pronunciation and then not being able to fluently articulate. I mean, intonation is, you know, your voice moving up, your voice moving down. Um, there can be emotion given with it. So I ask my friend, "How are you?" My friend says, "I'm fine." I ask my wife, "How are you?" "I'm fine." "Oh, I'm sleeping on the sofa tonight." So, intonation, I feel that all aspects of pronunciation should be learned from the very beginning, even at lower levels. And you will encounter people that are quite um, capable with English language, but never develop their intonation. All right, I believe I'm a little bit overtime with my delivery of the workshop. IDP team, do let me know if I'm going overtime. I'm happy to answer these questions, though. Body language. Often make weird facial expression or hand gestures. Well, don't be using rude hand gestures, right? Don't use this finger right here at the examiner, and don't be like at them. Listen, there's the two levels that are happening, that emotional side and the linguistic side. The emotional side is hard to quantify. Try to have as pleasant an interaction with them. That said, for most people, when they concentrate, their concentration face will often furrow their eyebrows, and that's fine. Just try not to be angry looking at them and like shaking with anger when you're looking at them. Unfriendly examiner. I met an unfriendly examiner. He made me anxious. What should I do about it? I'm sorry to hear about that, Ngopchan. Do make sure, like, I believe that examiners should be warmly professional. They should not be aggressive or angry, and it should not be a confrontational approach. If this does happen to you, do make sure that you find out the name of that examiner and you report that person afterwards. Now, and who can say about that given situation? But IDP and IELTS does take this seriously. So yeah, let it be known, and then hopefully the team can work with that examiner to help them improve. As I said, there are thousands of examiners out there. All of them have different personalities. If you think about the different people that you meet throughout life, right? Some people are friendly, some people are unfriendly, right? And sometimes that person can be an examiner. I do feel for you. I've had students who have encountered aggressive examiners, and the students told me later that they felt that they had a lower score as a result of that. And that made me upset and made me really feel for them. So hopefully if there's examiners watching this, try to be a little bit more friendly. But then for yourself, realize that this can happen. Roll with it as much as you can. And just try not to get it throwing you off your game. This comes back to stress management as well. And a big part of stress management goes outside of language, but it's breathing. Don't forget to breathe. If you are not breathing correctly, if you don't have enough air in you, you're putting your body into physical stress. If your body's in physical stress, it will amplify, it'll make your own emotional stress from the test more. Handling ngop, teeing up with an unfriendly examiner. Sorry to hear that. Number of examiners involved in assessing the IELTS speaking test. Does this include the examiner? Do all examiners have, is there one who is a more decisive role than others? So it is possible for a test to be reassessed. And there are certainly examiner trainers. They train other examiners to be examiners, but that's all I can say on that. If I report the case, will I be able to take another speaking test? I cannot, I don't know. Carolyn, me, I cannot say about that. But do make sure you try to remember the name of the examiner, or I believe that every test taker will come out and they'll ask, they'll give you a survey about how the test was for you, and be honest about that. Listen, I believe that most people, hopefully all people, we are a work in progress. We're trying to improve. So give the feedback so that IDP can improve, so that the examiner can improve. Maybe the examiner is unaware that maybe they have a face on that they are concentrating as they're trying to assess your language, and it could look like the person's angry. I don't know about your situation, but listen, do give the feedback and, help us all to improve, to get better.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel, for your sharing and answering a lot of questions for the test taker. Các bạn thân mến, mình biết rằng các bạn đang có rất là nhiều câu hỏi dành cho IDP và cũng như là dành cho cho speaker của chúng ta ngày hôm nay. Tuy nhiên là do là thời gian của chúng ta cho buổi workshop thì cũng sẽ có hạn. Do đó nếu các bạn có thêm nhiều câu hỏi nữa, các bạn có thể inbox vào fanpage của IDP và chúng mình sẽ cố gắng hỗ trợ trả lời cho tất cả các câu hỏi của các bạn ha. Và IDP hàng tháng thì chúng tôi cũng sẽ có mỗi tháng là một buổi, cố gắng là một buổi workshop học thuật như thế này để hỗ trợ cho các bạn. Do đó là nếu các bạn có quan tâm đến các buổi workshop của IDP, các bạn có thể nhấn follow vào kênh fanpage Facebook IELTS by IDP để chúng ta có thể biết thêm về những cái workshop sắp tới ha. Và một lần nữa thì cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều vì đã dành một buổi sáng chủ nhật dành cho IDP, dành cho thầy Daniel và đặt ra rất là nhiều câu hỏi hay trong buổi workshop này ngày hôm nay. Và mình cũng hẹn các bạn vào những cái buổi workshop sắp tới. Mình cũng xin phép làm kết thúc buổi workshop ngày hôm nay. Một lần nữa cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều. Once again, thank you, Daniel, for being here today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone. Really enjoyed this. Some great questions. And me, thank you for being the MC today. Hope to see you all again soon in the future. Oh, I'm done.